Warming up. Audio check. Audio check. Yep, it's clear.
Yeah, I
If you
changed
are
devices.
if you are watching this in the future, which means you're watching the recorded live stream, know that we will start in a few minutes. While waiting, feel free to watch us babble as we manually reshare our links or jump to the start of the show.
I don't know why I started thinking of that CCP music when you're waiting.
Yeah, we should have like house music,
Mm.
but then we need to
But
find
like royalty-free house
yeah
music.
that we know will not get a strike check because sometimes it's royalty free, but they still have a system that checks.
Oh my gosh, I misspelled Lucifer.
Luffy, sir.
Yeah, one moment. That's funny.
Mm-mm. Can you still change it?
On the caption, yeah, but then
YouTube, you'll just manually
I'll have
change
to
it
do
later.
it after. Yeah,
Okay.
I think I can. I think I can tweak it now, but it's like not annoying.
Yeah, I was worried if I was misspelling it as well.
It's like I know doing all the hashtags for the election. Then I don't know why instead of 2022, sometimes I keep typing 2020. Like it's not even 2021. It's like 2020. Like, geez, thanks.
Yeah, I get that mistake. I do that mistake more when I'm working on checks.
Oh yeah, that's a struggle, especially when it crosses over from one year to the next.
And the next thing you know, you have like 10 checks all written wrong.
So while we're waiting, it's like two things. One, lower decks, awesome this week,
Mm-hmm.
super awesome. And I swear, it's like, and I get it. Like a lot of people end up like I think in the Star Trek like online community, it's a lot of like every week na lang we're saying like it's our best episode of lower decks so far. And like
Mhm.
these last few have been super solid. Has been oh my god.
That's a good thing.
Yeah. I mean, like it's just it's a really really good show. I know we've already done a Baduy Pride episode
Mhm.
celebrating Lower Decks. Yeah. Why do you have an oops?
Because it was Luffy, sir. So I recorrected it. See? Luffy, sir.
Yeah, it's not going to change anytime soon.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, like I can do that now and save.
It's okay.
If you refresh the window, I'll feel better. Like refresh that YouTube window.
Yeah, it's correct.
Yay!
So now it's weird that I said oops.
It's weird that you replied to our own. She don't.
Nada oops.
This is what happens, when like we're waiting for people to join. We'll just talk to ourselves.
So we're still continuing October, touching on topics that might have a little bit more towards horror in some way, like Lucifer, for example.
Depending on the Lucifer. Oh boy. Uh,
But yeah, we will officially start in a few minutes. Just double checking if people are on their way.
yeah, I'm just pulling up. Did you post in the group? Yeah, you
Yeah,
did.
just
Yeah. I'm just looking at like quickly skimming some of these articles that have been come up over the years. And then after that, we also just caught the finale of What If. And it's always this weird, like, oh, then we get 9 episodes because 9 episodes is a season for some people. But yeah, just COVID affected production, so then they just ran with what they had. It was okay. What if was cute. What if was cute. I mean, I didn't exactly expect it to like have quote unquote galaxy spanning implications for the MCU.
I'm happy they're able to do those type of stories.
Yeah, it was a good
Um,
use of the animated medium.
I'm not particularly impressed, only because we've seen a lot and read a lot of stories that do touch on that.
I think what's only impressive is like the animation itself is very
Mhm.
good, very very nice stylized
Mhm.
depictions of these characters. And then I'm still impressed with like how many people came back to do voice acting
Mhm.
for their movie characters. So good job, Disney Powers.
I just wish we felt more the point of certain characters.
Mm, mm. Yeah.
Because it was kind of sad that some characters were like, so you had that one trick pony move, and that's why you were part of this group. And that's it.
Because the Watcher is an observer. That's that's the only thing I'm gonna walk away from this whole thing is that because he planned everything. And it's fun to say that line. The Watcher is an observer. It's the same thing.
Mhm.
All he needs is a notebook and like pepper.
Lots of peppers. All right, I think we might as well start. We
Okay.
shall tackle this, and we will be right back after this intro sequence.
We are. What is that face? You're already making a YouTube cover? Is that it? We'll be right back.
Oh yeah! Really great!
This is Toby.
And this is Rocky.
And if it's your first time here, welcome to Baduy Pride, our little space on the internet where we talk about anything we want.
It's completely unscripted and not entirely accurate, but at least it's honest. Join us as we talk about everything and anything random live.
And if it's not your first time here, thank you so much for joining us again. It's a Friday, and every Friday we talk about everything from geekdoms to personal lives to things that we think about.
Whatever floats our boat.
And tonight is a suggested topic.
Yeah, so we're talking about Lucifer. The original request was to talk about Lucifer's latest 6th season, or maybe the whole show, but we haven't really watched a lot of it. So we decided to expand the discussion between Lucifer Morning Star as a comic character that was first established in the Sandman comics, and then later on into the TV incarnation that more people may be familiar with, depending on your flavor. And we watched some seasons of the show. We just haven't finished it. I double checked, like, wow, we made it to season 3.
Yeah, we made it to the nudist colony episode, which was could have been better. So, let's talk about Lucifer. First encounter that you remember.
Well, it's funny because it's first when in the early Sandman book where
Yes.
he has to go to hell
Yes.
because his helmet's missing.
Yes.
So quick context, which is like already sort of presented in the first look trailer of the new Netflix Sandman series, is that Dream gets imprisoned, and then his articles of
Dream
office.
gets imprisoned by a group that was trying to capture Death.
Yes, they captured the wrong Endless,
Yes.
and they ended up with Dream instead of Death.
And with Dream captured, when he's captured, he was it was in his full regalia. He had the helmet, he had the gem,
He had the bag of sand.
Yeah, but then since he's prisoner, they take it away from him, and eventually, long story short, when he finally gets free, because the comic has to, of course, have the main character free at some point. This is, of course, me trying to shield everything, then we keep it non-spoilery.
It's not a spoiler, that's setup.
Yeah.
But he has to find his articles of office.
He realizes he has to find them. And the helmet, as far as what he is told,
honey, is with a demon.
yes.
a demon who may or may not be in hell.
So he then has to go to hell, and that's when we encounter Lucifer.
Yeah, which is like when you think about it, and especially when Sandman first came out as a comic book, it's like, ooh, that's so risque. It's like going to do a literal depiction of hell
Mm-hmm.
with the Lucifer, as in Lucifer who fell from heaven,
Mm-hmm.
and now rules as whatever, the incarnation of the devil. Um, and this is like late 80s, early 90s. So it's peak satanic panic and all
Mm-hmm.
that, all the things about bad things happening in D&D and whatnot, and then you have it in a comic book. So ooh, edgy.
So that was Preludes and Nocturnes, which is the earlier Sandman book. He then reappears later on in the Seasons of Mist.
Yes, because basically is that Dream has to go because he needs something in hell again.
Mm-hmm.
And then Lucifer, the last time he encountered the Dream, had sworn that he would destroy him.
Because he was embarrassed, he was humiliated.
Yeah, yeah. So, but then he shows up at hell, and then it's empty. And then the
Without spoiling it,
yeah, it's like
it's not what you'd expect, and Lucifer once again, you know, acts perfectly how you think the devil would act, and yet very differently from how traditionally is written.
yeah.
Because let's stop from Sandman for a brief moment and go to having read the Bible.
Okay,
You
we're going there.
you get the introductions to Lucifer with Genesis,
Yes.
and in Genesis,
Oh wait, really?
the story of the serpent.
Oh yeah, technically that's him. Yes,
Right.
yes, that's
So-
true. That's
so
true.
you
just don't know he's Lucifer.
Yeah, so you have the tempter in present. You have all this. I'll make you want it, and I'll make you embrace sin, and it was your choice. And then later on, you have the more exciting part, which is the stories in Revelations, wherein it's now all war and all this and that. Growing up, other encounters included the infamous movie, which was The Last Temptation of Christ,
Oh yes, that's
where
very long.
he directly, challenges Jesus while he's in the desert with all these temptations and this and that. And then, other than that, you have horror films. So, the presence of demons or the devil himself in different horror films as the thing possessing a child,
Mhm.
as a thing that's reaching out into the world, as embodiments of it in different ways. Some even equated stuff like Hellraiser and Pinhead as Lucifer, but of course we know that's a totally different thing.
Mhm.
What were your other encounters?
Well, of course, if you cross over to the Marvel side of the fence, you have Mephisto, who
Mhm.
is the stand-in
Yes,
for the devil,
with the red
and he's
body,
literally red all
the
over.
messy hair.
Yeah, and but they established that he is like the devil of hell,
Mhm.
but he's never quite like officially Lucifer. It's like because by creating the persona Mephisto,
Mhm.
then Marvel was able to put some moderate amount of distance between them and the
Yes.
Bible. That it's still a fictional character,
And-
but the same role.
And they do sort of hint that there is a really different person with the introduction of Hellstrong,
Mm,
who is the
mm.
son of the devil, and it's not Mephisto. And,
Yeah, yeah,
you know, so there is that. Beyond those, um, so beyond really pure horror, we then have Sandman, which approaches it in such a different way.
yeah. Mm-hmm.
And by the time Sandman reaches the kindly ones, um, that's when we have a Lucifer who you just cannot help but um, celebrate, because that's when he's now all, I have my bar, I don't care about the war here and there,
Mm-mm.
I have my thing going on. But then he still slips into his little tactics. Like there was that guest in the bar, and then he started talking about rocking the boat. I'm trying not to spoil things, and it turns into
Too
this.
late.
It turns
too
into this
late.
horrific moment.
Yes.
But the art never goes horrific,
Yes.
and that was such a signature presentation. Because
Yeah.
even the earlier ones was still very angel wings and
And plus, it was like him. I mean, you first encounter him in his like in his main office. I mean, like
Mhm.
it's his realm. He's the ruler. He
Mhm.
must show strength because, of course, all the different demons are constantly like waiting for an opportunity to rise in power.
Mhm.
And and by his own admission in the books that he may have also pushed them along into this sort of behavior. It was fun for a time for him. And but yeah, his later appearances in the book, which eventually leads to a spin-off series,
Yes,
um,
his own self-titled
titled,
series,
yeah,
which is Lucifer.
focused
Yeah,
on his new life. So
and all of this was really rich. It was very striking. Visually, it was such a signature look. He'd been all white with his orange red hair.
mm-mm.
His face would almost always be smiling, but then you'd have those brief moments where part of his face is in shadow and he's like pure hatred because the character is doing something or
Ooh,
he.
ooh. Oh, sorry. And then I'm like, of clever descriptions because so I'm listening to the Act 2 Sandman
Mhm.
audiobook now. And then it is all the dialogue in the comics plus additional descriptions that replace the comic book panels.
Mhm.
And Neil Gaiman threw in this. Oh, I don't know if it's Neil Gaiman or the writing, the production team, whoever, but they added in description to Lucifer where he's whatever radiant, whatnot, and then his red curly hair, which at sometimes it almost looks like horns.
Mhm.
Which, like, if you look at the art, like,
Yeah,
oh yeah,
that does happen. Yeah,
there are moments that
it
it
was a
kind of curls.
subliminal touch.
Yeah, but it's like clearly called out in the audiobook. And
Mhm.
like, oh yeah, I forgot that detail. So good. So yeah, there's a lot of thought into the
Mhm.
comic book
It's
character.
a spectacle. It's a distinct visual look. And then when they come up with the TV series, it's gone.
Okay, and the TV series is its own creature, and we've said this time and time again that which is a struggle of like anyone reviewing
Mhm.
content is that you really need to try to take each piece of content on its own. Like even
Mhm.
though Lucifer, the TV series, is to some degree adapted from the DC comic book character, it's still not like a page per page adaptation. And even if it were, you try to look at the TV series as its own creation, and then the comic book as its own creation.
So let's discuss this creation by Tom Capinos, which is the Lucifer Morning Star show as a crime drama
As
with
a police
fantasy.
procedural. As a police procedural. Um okay, so and then like there are already like a bunch of articles that are out there. And then I think in the beginning there were some attempts at making sure that the comic book connection could be felt.
Mhm.
So one key moment in the comics, which is the impetus also here in the show, is that basically he quits his job.
Mhm.
He doesn't want to be ruler of hell, and then he decides to live on Earth. And then it's just that him being the devil is interpreted as having one power, or at least predominantly one power, which is people must
Confess.
confess their
Mhm.
desires to him.
Mhm.
Right? They're totally honest, and they tell him what they want.
Still drawing from the comic, they included Mazikeen, who in the comic was a extremely loyal, focused character. As a demon, half her face is grotesque, and so when among mortals, she wears this stylized mask
Yes, very Phantom
and
of the
and
Opera.
sometimes a hood to
Mm-mm.
like conceal things. But you could see that she's almost smiling, knowing that they're not aware of things.
And her speech pattern in the comic was like so distorted
Mhm.
because of the fact that half her face is like practically burned off.
She can't speak properly because of the
Yes.
lack of half a face.
And then a side note, audiobook captured that, which was
Now,
amazing.
in the TV show, of course, we presume this is also because of budgetary reasons, because you can't afford to have a TV show and have someone like Two Face for the entire show.
Yes.
We have Leslie Ann Brandt playing Mazikeen, and we rarely see that demonic side.
But it's
We
like there, but instead of a mask, it's magically hidden.
and we see her constantly just being someone who doesn't seem to be acting human,
Yeah.
as the way to remind us that she's that demon.
Oh, and they and they
Tom
s-
Ellis,
and
yeah.
they super elevated her relationship with Lucifer.
Yes.
Because I mean, at best in the comic she was like this very loyal supplicant,
Mhm.
but it was very one way.
Yes.
And then here they're like, you know, chummy.
Now Tom Ellis plays Lucifer. Tom Ellis, who we love from Miranda.
We love them in Miranda because Gary.
We struggle to like him here, as odd as that sounds. And it's really odd because here he's playing a very sexually liberated character who has a confidence that supposedly borders on narcissistic. Because they obviously reinterpreted the concept of Lucifer as, since he's the devil, then he, of course, he celebrates all these sins.
Mm-hmm.
Of course, he'll be into excess. Of course, he's sleeping with anyone he wants. Of course, he has moments of rage. None of which was how he was portrayed in the comic.
Yeah. If anything, I felt like comic book Lucifer was almost indifferent to everything
Mhm.
because like he's above all this.
And, judging from the comic concept, he's been around for so long.
Yes,
So
nothing
none
is
of this
new.
matters. And
Nothing is really that
and he
interesting.
doesn't even care about souls and the like. He gave up health, but he doesn't really care about souls because it's pointless. He knows it's all part of that grand plan anyway.
Yeah, and then he had that key line like basically, you know, I'm not some fishmonger like
Mm-hmm.
making deals with everyone for their
Mhm.
souls. So which
Mhm.
is like what everybody thinks of, or you know, they've always blamed the devil, and so
Mhm.
that was his comic book person. He was very tired in that regard, and then the show sort of had it, but in the end, it just felt like a running away from responsibilities, less than
Mhm.
this abdication of his role. So I mean, you know, and we can go back and forth forever, but then like that's how it felt like.
The show then adds Chloe Decker, played by Lauren German, who is, I guess you could say, the foil for the audience to
The
get.
chosen in Monster Hearts.
Yeah, but she's a foil for the audience in the sense of getting to understand Lucifer. So if you've never read the comic, she's the one who doesn't quite get him.
And must ask
So
questions
you
aloud.
sort of get the same thing. You get the opportunity.
But, but,
But,
but,
but,
but, for some reason, she's immune to Lucifer's charms.
and,
Like literally, he exerts his power on her, and then nothing. She has no
Mhm.
urge to confess anything.
so it supposedly tries to ride on that expected trope when you have a um, girl guy show tandem sort of thing, which we've seen in Moonlighting and other shows,
Wow, we
where they
cited Moonlight.
where they kind of hate each other, but they're kind of into each other, and you're kind of waiting to see when it'll happen. And um, yes, I could say the show succeeds in showing some level of chemistry between the two.
Mm-hmm.
No, I don't feel it's a chemistry I enjoy watching because there's no payoff.
Yeah.
It always feels like either one person is just being difficult to the other, or the other person is just not really earning it.
Mm-hmm.
So it's frustrating for me. Because we have a mortal now sharing the spotlight. Of course, the mortal has their own added little thing, and that's when Dan Espinosa kicks in. Kevin Alejandro plays the role as the other detective slash ex partner of the mortal who Lucifer is now close to. Because we will remind you, Lucifer is not a cop.
Yes.
He is just
He
some sort
somehow
of
becomes a
consultant.
consultant for the police because he gets people to confess.
And everyone just understands that he thinks he's the devil.
yeah, it's a weird. I mean, okay, I get it. We have a lot of works of fiction that play on the fact that we are, whether consciously or not, we're very skeptical as a species, and we are often willing to
Hmm.
dismiss a lot of strange things in order to continue to embrace a mundane reality.
Mhm.
But this show really like pushes it, like all the weird things that happen, and then we just have to they keep just saying, okay, he just that's what he believes.
Mhm.
It's a difference of opinion.
And then because now the mortal has a supporting character, Lucifer has to have his own supporting character. And this at the start was another angel,
Yes.
horribly named,
Hmm?
um,
Amenadiel.
because we have to add an amen in this angel name.
No, but isn't there is a no? Wasn't there a
In the comic,
there is a comic, but it wasn't. He wasn't this role. Like, uh,
yeah, in the comic you had the two angels, the silent one Duma, and the other one, what was his name? Duma and Michael and Duma. Um, because one of them was the one who vowed silence and holds on to the key, and then the other one doesn't.
Menadil.
So that's in see there.
He
Look
was
at the
a
bottom.
recurring enemy, but he
That
was
appears
already
in the
in.
later
Yeah,
1999
he
stuff.
comes in Lucifer the Morning Star option.
Yeah, it's not in the main Sandman books. It's not in the main Lucifer book. It's in the much later book.
Yeah, yeah. Ew, he's
So
like, ew. But he was like a super minor antagonist.
yeah,
Like he's an angel.
so it's just frustrating because I felt parang all these things they tried to add because now this new ground they're making doesn't make much sense.
Yeah. So okay. So and I think that okay. So it sounds like we're really digging on the show. I mean, dissing on the show. And then they're. I think our problem is that it's just so hard to reconcile the comic book inspiration
Mm-hmm.
versus the live action series.
Mm.
So much so that especially as the whole police procedural bit goes on and on, then it feels like maybe you shouldn't have bothered to have associated it with the comic.
Yeah, I even wonder why they wanted to associate it if they were going for such a different direction.
Yeah, I mean
'Cause
like it of course marketing. Yeah,
yeah, but the thing is, you're already shooting yourself in the foot because, sure, I'll target this because the fans love it, but we'll show them something that doesn't match what they're expecting.
yeah. So like it's like there's and then okay, the fact that we've gotten at least as far as the third season. Oh
Mhm.
wow, someone in China. Hello. We've gotten as far as the third season,
Hello, Tammy.
and then it's like it's okay. It's like, and I guess it's its own creature entirely. If
Mhm.
I stop thinking about the comic book and
Mhm.
stop thinking about those storylines and that depiction of the character and just embrace that this is a show about a guy who thinks he's the devil,
Mhm.
um, and he probably is the devil,
Mhm.
then it's not that terrible. It's like it's an interesting take on the quirky police procedural. I think of shows like Psych, right, where they pretend to be the
Mhm.
guy has photographic memory, but he instead
Mhm.
pretends to be a psychic. There's Monk,
Yes.
where the main detective is like what's this rather obsessive compulsive,
Mhm.
but he still gets things done.
Yeah.
So then it's just like that. It's another police procedural with a quirky premise, but yeah, it's that. So there's the one thing that we had a chance with. One is that the comic book difference in the two, and then two, Tom Ellis,
Mhm.
because we love Tom Ellis in Miranda, and then he was just so different in Lucifer, and I think we were constantly trying to reconcile these two images of Tom in our head
Mhm.
forever and ever. And that's and I'll concede that may be a problem unique to us or unique to anyone who's ever seen him in Miranda. And it's so funny because like he was a lot more average in Miranda.
Mhm.
He's rather adorable in that regard.
Mhm.
And then in this show, in classic like American TV requirements, over the course of the show, he like gets a lot more fit,
Mhm.
to say the least. And that still didn't do it for us for some reason. Like because
Because
we want Gary.
because he what works for Tom Ellis in Miranda was that approachability,
Yes.
that almost boy next door charm that really worked. Now, when it comes to Lucifer, the TV series, sorry, when it comes to Lucifer, the comic book, um, there was a lot of inspiration from this almost dapper David Bowie-ish character, wherein he just was there. He was just such a presence. You cannot ignore him in the room. He wasn't even just blonde. He was like his hair looked like fire. It looked like light. He wouldn't just look at you. He would stare at you and see into your soul. And a lot of this shifted in terms of visuals when you now have Tom Ellis in the role,
Mm-hmm.
because suddenly they wanted him to look evil. They
Yeah.
wanted him to look
Devilish.
dark,
Impish.
which felt very odd for me. It was like, why this change? It's not even. You might even say what they wanted the role to be for him, but then it didn't connect.
At least for us, it didn't play to what we perceive to be his strengths
Hmm.
as a character actor. And you know, and to be fair, we were just thinking too much Miranda. Um, but yeah, it just made it harder to appreciate it going in. And then for it to be an American network style police
Mm.
procedural series, which means a lot of episodes, a lot of freak of the week, and then like very little like meta plot, which is sort of what you look for comic book adapted stories. Like
Hmm.
you want long long form serialized storytelling. So there is that balancing act. But, you know, it surprises me at how popular the Lucifer TV series
Because it's not
is.
a bad show
Yeah, no, but
if you weren't fans of the comic.
it's super. It's like I wasn't expecting. As far as the police procedural goes, I'm kind of impressed that it gotten that popular,
Mhm.
especially for something with like a topic as potentially controversial as the devil,
Yes.
as the lead character. So I gotta give him that. I have to give credit, and the fact that the show you know, got along for several seasons and then still got like quote unquote saved, right? In the end, it
Mm.
became a full Netflix thing in this sixth season. So it's like, wow, that's a lot, you know, and it takes a particularly fervent degree of fan support
Mm.
and a lot of binge watching that Netflix can track. Um, for you know for a show to be saved or at least to be continued in that manner. So i'm I'm at times bewildered at its popularity,
Mhm.
and then it's like one of those shows that when the new season came out, people were like talking on social media, like they were watching it real time and posting and like,
Mhm.
wow, okay. And here we are, like in our hierarchy of TV shows, Lucifer is like our, I can play it in the background when we're working. You
Mhm.
know, it's like it's okay. And it or in the other weirder hierarchy of TV shows, it's the kind of show that if one of us needs to go to the bathroom, we say it's okay, you don't have to pause it.
Yeah.
Because when we come back, what happened? You know?
Now, I'd like to consider that a lot of these changes were perhaps also the side effect of not being able to get the full rights. For
Mm,
example,
that's true.
um, you're doing a Lucifer show, but no, you can't use the Endless.
Yeah,
No, you can't have
any DC
the
character.
other main characters that we've showcased so far. No, you can't have Zatanna, you can't have Constantine and all this and that. When now you're posed with all these restrictions, then the hell with it. I'll just tell my own story.
Yeah, and then I'll just stay. And the only characters, the comic character they have access to, are probably those that have appeared directly in
Hmm.
the spin-off Lucifer comic book series.
Hmm.
Then you know, then we'll go with that.
So part of that divergence, I feel, is the introduction of Trisha Heffler as Charlotte.
Who it? Yeah. Well, there primarily she is the human character, Charlotte, but
Mm.
then later she shares her body with someone else,
Yes.
and will not spoil.
And that, admittedly, was a nice shot of um, freshness to the show because it kind of helped you stop thinking this was trying so hard to be a police procedural.
Mm.
It started to have almost the sense of a story among characters. Um, Other than Charlotte, we also had the role of the psychiatrist. Rachel Harris plays Linda Martin,
That was a quirky role.
which, um, Sopranos aside, could have done, could have carried the show fully if there was no mortal Lucifer could not affect with his powers angle. Had
Mm.
it just been Lucifer and the shrink for the
That
main
could have been an
show,
interesting
that
angle.
could have
That's
worked.
true. That's
And then
true.
it could have been police procedurals as a side. It could have been like, so what's your story today? Because the shrink doesn't think it's real, right? And he's like, oh, I helped this other murder. And then we flash back to those scenes. So it's still the police procedural
That
story.
could have been cool.
But then it then focuses on the two, right? So she's like, so still thinking you're him, huh? And she of course throws some line that shows he's more cosmically aware than she realizes.
It also probably didn't help that we were, well, personally, like more exposed to Rachel Harris because of Suits.
Mm,
where she played the admissions officer,
mm,
and but her personality did not seem that different from her character in the show because they
mm-mm.
were both like very sexually liberal. So then it's like then you have that double take moment, and I think like, that goes back to like where we every now and then we talk about like for certain shows or movies, we kind of wish that the talent, the actors and actresses were not familiar people,
Yes.
because as much as you don't want to typecast people and you don't want to limit them to a particular incarnation of a role,
Mm,
but you'll always have like that double vision and like, oh wait, no, we're watching
mm,
Lucifer, she's different, she's not that. But then if you're watching Suits, you see her again, wait, she's not struggling with memory loss or whatnot. So it's tricky.
Now the show still, however, does effects well.
Mm.
So the moments when we see the grandeur of the wings or the lack of it, the moments when we see the gaze having that supernatural effect, those instances when we actually saw the sword of fire,
Oh yeah.
um, those were still wonderful moments to see.
And even like the different like moments with wings, like
Hmm.
depending on whoever's wings we're talking about, good moments. And then even Mazikeen reveal moments,
Hmm.
it's like, oh, ooh, good stuff.
So I'm happy, in as much as I was complaining about Mazikeen not being Mazikeen, I still wish she was wearing a mask most of the time.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm happy that when they do reveal her face, it looks damn good. Um, I enjoyed the show more once the characters stopped thinking of the crime of the week and
Mm.
started to explore stories, such as that episode where you had the girls' night out,
Yes.
or the episode where it was a similar one. They're all puzzled about the safe,
Mm-hmm.
and
Oh yeah, and what could be in
and
it?
all those stories felt so much more interesting. They actually felt closer to the Vertigo books because it was again about people in these situations, and they happen to be the devil, and they happen to be a demon trying to understand things.
Yeah, and even like what's her name? I think that's the Amy Garcia character, Ella Lopez, the CSI
Hmm.
lab person.
Who
She
has religious moments?
religious moment, but at the same time, they gave her so many good geek references.
Yeah.
I mean, the fact that she literally speaks Klingon in some episodes and constantly referring to pop culture. So she's another weird audience advocate, but she's
Hmm.
like the fanboy advocate
Hmm.
in the show, even though it's like this is not the Lucifer we're used to. It was like an interesting development, and then I enjoy her scenes. She's a lot of fun. And now I'm feeling like we're gonna have to get around to like continuing the show because
Hmm.
and I would like to think that there is a reason why it's gotten this long and why it has made it to a sixth season. Um, it says still something about the achievement uh about it. Mitch just mentioned about the broadcast. I'm hoping the signal is okay, but
Yeah.
it looks okay on our end, Mitch. I hope that your connection resolves, right? Okay.
So with that, I guess to um, bring it closer to a close, with the comic representation of Lucifer being as it is, with the TV representation of Lucifer being as it is, we have the audiobook, and in the audiobook,
No, the audio drama.
okay,
Yeah. The of Sandman, you mean,
yeah,
but not Lucifer. So yeah, it's good. They got Michael. I'm gonna misspeak his name, so I'm
hmm,
I'm going to double check just to make sure I don't say the wrong thing. Because he's one of those people I keep mixing up his name. But the devil. Uh, 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 where's the cast page? I had it now. I have to log in. One moment. I'm still not gonna say it because I'm scared. Um, yeah, actually, I had the right name in my head, Michael Sheen, but not like it's this Michael Sheen and not the other Michael Sheen, which is always like it's confusing in my head because then I'm thinking Top Gun, and then like you know, but he is the same Michael Sheen in Good Omens, the
hmm,
Amazon series. So
hmm,
Lucifer is voiced by that person in the comic and in the audio drama,
hmm.
and he's brilliant. He's absolutely brilliant. So I super love the Audible, the Sandman Audible drama. They like I said earlier, it's like it's every single line of dialogue from the comic
Mm-hmm.
plus beautiful descriptions in addition that are that flesh things out. And then the series is narrated by Neil Gaiman himself. So so good. And then I don't know if it's still valid, but then for quite a while in a lead up to the release of Act 2,
Mm-hmm.
Act 1 was entirely free on Audible. Like as
Mm-hmm.
long as you signed up for Audible, you could just download it and you'll keep it forever. You didn't even need to do a promo code. It was everybody gets Sandman for free. Of course,
Mm-hmm.
I had paid for my Sandman, but it's okay. It's worth paying for. It's a super good drama. And while Lucifer is only one part of this larger story, um, it's still very well done. And then Seasons of Mist is the focus of Act 2, so he's all over the place.
So I guess the close is DC, however, still did not have Lucifer as the sole devil as far as the
Yes.
comic line is concerned.
Yes.
From Sandman itself, there is the understanding of the triumvirate existing, wherein Lucifer was there with two other demons. Um, oh my gosh, I forgot the others. And then there's the other devilish villains, everything from Neron, the first of the fallen, who are other Luciferan or demonic villains in the
Yes.
DC universe.
Yeah, and I mean, there's literally Underworld Unleashed, I think is what they
Yes,
called it,
which
the
which
event.
had Neron.
Yeah, Neron making deals with everyone.
Mhm.
Okay.
Some also cite Dark Side as a manifestation or representation of the devil, but we think that's because he's awesome evil. Um, so given that,
Oh, and literally Hades, because they have the whole Greek pantheon.
right, they have the Greek
Because they have
pantheon,
Wonder Woman
Wonder Woman, yes.
and variations thereof. So it's like it's a colorful world.
So with all that, it now brings the question: we haven't had a Lucifer in the Constantine TV series.
Yes, although the Constantine series also didn't survive.
Yeah, still sort of lives though,
In the
thanks
Arrowverse.
to Arrowverse and Legends of Tomorrow.
I just call the whole thing
Yeah.
Arrowverse, including Legends of Tomorrow.
We did have an awesome devil in the Constantine movie, however,
Oh, yes.
and that
Say what you will about that movie. That was a good devil.
and that movie is about to have a sequel, right? There has been talks of a new Constantine movie coming up.
Really,
Yes,
I don't remember. Oh my god, there is a Constantine 2
Yes,
project.
see,
But it's like IMDb doesn't have a year for it. It's just there. It's just floating in the ether. And there's like Screen Rant articles about everything we know about Constantine 2. But it's only reportedly happening, but there's no release date, so
Mhm.
it's just floating.
So Peter Starmaire was the one who played the devil.
Mm.
Some might remember him from Lost World Jurassic Park, others from Big Lebowski. Um, I remember him, of course, from Dancer in the Dark. That was such a heavy movie. He was also in Minority Report, um, as well as 21 Jump Street. But mostly people know him for his work in Fargo.
Or if you're also into like other Neil Gaiman work, then you may remember him from American Gods
Mm,
because he is the guy with the hammer who's constantly threatening
yes.
Shadow that he is going to hit him on the head.
So that was a beautifully different approach to the concept of Lucifer visually. Still the white suit, but leaking,
Goo
leaking
things.
dirt, leaking
He wasn't
vileness.
he wasn't quite David Lynch, Baron Harkonnen
Mhm.
gross, but he was kind of gross. He literally looked greasy.
Mm-mm.
He wasn't like polished, well
Mm.
done. He wasn't the perfection of temptation. So it was a very interesting thing. And considering because we already had Tilda Swinton,
Mm.
and Tilda Swinton as an angel was super like
That has to happen again soon.
super believer as an angel, and then to have him come out as Lucifer was so different.
Mm.
Was so different because he looked sick to some degree, like almost like a like a like a functional but still sick cancer patient or something. I don't know. I mean no offense in that description. I'm just trying to put it into words.
So with that, I guess it now begs the question: with the upcoming Sandman series,
Which means we're going to tread the same ground
we know
again, right?
Lucifer will have to appear
Yes.
because
At the very beginning.
the helmet, right? The story of the helmet will require Lucifer to be present.
I can't get over. Oh yeah, and this is the one where
Yes.
Gwendolyn Christie is Lucifer
So
as
with
announced.
Gwendolyn Christie as Lucifer, I'm not against it.
That's it.
I'm
It could be interesting.
I'm I'm very excited slash terrified
Mm-hmm.
if they'll make her a white suit Lucifer, and
Mm.
even better if they'll make her the David Bowie Lucifer.
Okay,
Because
and this is
she can have the orange shock hair, she can have that androgynous face.
and this is what, like, if you look at any article comparing that talks about Lucifer's origins or compares Lucifer the comic to the TV series,
Mm.
it's always gonna come up that the original visual peg for Lucifer is David Bowie, and that's
Yes.
why Lucifer in the comics is blonde, and that's
Mhm.
why it was so confusing when we start with Lucifer the TV series and he's not blonde.
Yes. And I could see her playing the role. I could see her having the presence. I could see her having that cold stare. I hope she brings in the charm,
Mm-hmm.
because the charm is important. And I think the last concern I have is, I'm worried we'll see her do the role so well, we'll wish she was Desire.
Oh, oh, sad. And it'll be such an interesting opportunity for her to flex her acting skills
Mm-hmm.
because she has been slightly typecast into like almost male
Mm-hmm.
female characters. Like
Mm.
she's strong and stuff. So
She's gruff.
in Game of Thrones, she
She
was
doesn't
like
show
that.
emotions.
Phasma and
Mhm.
Star Wars, she was like that. And it's like, but she can do so much more. So I hope that does happen for her. But I can understand the concerns. But
Mhm.
let's not get too sucked into just the admittedly the opening the opening sequence that was shared as like a teaser trailer thing is so much more exciting than the posters that they released
Mhm.
because and it just tells you that it's hard to appreciate them static. Like we ultimately we want to know how they are going to be, what is their characterization, and
Mhm.
how they're going to interpret each role. So yeah, the posters confuse us when we looked at them. It's like
I hope they keep her plain.
mm,
Plain in the sense of, um, they don't try to make her eyes look different. They don't try to
mm,
make her up todo. Only because sometimes they do that when they do roles, right?
yeah.
They they try to exaggerate certain elements. Someone has constantly eyeshadow for some reason. Uh, so I hope they keep her. I guess in terms of makeup, it's like a nude makeup. You don't think she's wearing makeup, but then
Mm,
she
mm.
looks perfect.
Clean, yeah.
Then her hair is just blonde, but maybe there's a hint of reddish to it. I'm worried they'd go super diet red. I hope not.
Oh my god, sorry, just glancing at the Wikipedia. I didn't realize she was in the Imaginarium of Dr. Parnassus, but it's like some bit role. Classy
Mhm.
shopper number 2. And then Zero Theorem, woman in commercial. Like
Mhm.
what? What? Okay. I'm blown. My mind blown. All right. Yeah. So we can only hope. We can only hope. And like I think that I mean, you could argue that every incarnation of Lucifer is going to be valid, and
Mhm.
whatever interpretation they bring to the table, just accept that's the Lucifer you're going to get. But I just hope that it be memorable, and uh, and that um, and it still captures a lot of the nuance and complexity of the original comic book character that inspired all these different versions,
Mhm.
variants.
But yeah, that I guess covers Lucifer from the comics to the TV series.
To the
Yeah.
future.
We still recommend you check out the TV series if you are interested in seeing this take on a police procedural that was once inspired by a Vertigo title.
But don't don't get so hung up on the vertigo part, the comic book part. Like
Mhm.
just take it as it is, and then it will do you much better to help enjoy. And then if this inspires you to eventually read the Lucifer comics, then that's not a bad thing too. And
Mhm.
whether you're only going to look for his appearances within the Sandman comics or read the independent Lucifer comics, which were not necessarily written by Neil Gaiman,
Yeah,
but it's still they're still interesting stories that
the
nicely capture the character.
generally interesting stories. Some of the stories got a bit hookier at the later parts.
Yes.
The later explorations were attempts to dive back into more mythological approaches. But all in all, worth a read. I'd say read it if you get the chance to do
I
so.
just I haven't found the time to read any of the new Sandman books, the Sandman universe
I'm
stuff.
afraid to.
Yung nga, I feel the
I'm
same way.
afraid
Like
to.
I don't know,
I know
I
I
don't know.
read like a single issue of the new books of magic, and I was already parang.
I only read the issue 0 of Sandman universe, like the premise, and which was like the sampler of
Mm,
all the different books because they had the Raven flying around.
mm.
So
And then I'm kind of weirded out on how they're redoing Constantine.
I haven't
Because
listened to that.
Constantine suddenly is part of the main universe, right?
Yeah, yeah.
So, but then he's still supposedly the same Constantine. So he's now, still foul mouthed and all this and that, but then throwing magic balls. So,
Hey, what can we do? This is the same people who gave us New 52, where, hey, everything happened, but,
in 3 years,
3 years, everything ever happened in the comics
Batman
is
broke his
real.
back, had four Robins, and all that in 3 years.
So some suspension of belief is required to, like, get through the current DC universe. Yeah.
All right, so I guess that's it. That's our attempt to discuss Lucifer from comics to the small screen. And um, do you want to see a big screen Lucifer story?
I think I'm okay with just a Constantine story. Like and I guess the challenge with Lucifer stuff is like even the TV show, it's gonna get protests again, and
Mm.
it's gonna get stupid, irrelevant, but still going to happen. Like religious folks angry, and then so let's just do Constantine again. Let's do a Constantine sequel, and thus we have a nice way to slide in interesting depictions of God and
I
the
think
devil.
what I'd like to see is, although it's an old term anymore, a vertical universe wherein
Yes.
maybe we'll have a Sandman movie to focus on that one beautiful episode where he fights the guy who got the stone.
Mm-hmm.
That's a movie. That's fun. It's gonna be fantastic. But then maybe we'll have a different movie, and this time it's the Ghost Boy Detectives, and it's just cameo of Lucifer,
I've just
cameo of.
I've just gotten to that part in the audio because it's Seasons of Mist. So
So
hey
stuff
kids,
like that.
hi.
I would love to see that sort of things. I would love to see a universe based on the Vertigo stuff. Not necessarily big stories, could be pockets of stories, but then those little glimpses of those characters. So like maybe you have this story based on Kill Your Boyfriend, so you have the guy fighting the girl, but then you'll realize, wait, is that Lucifer in the background laughing? Is that
Mm.
moments like that? That would be great.
It's like like we can now argue like all future Marvel projects needs to have the Watcher superimposed in the background,
Including Star
watching
Wars.
things. Why not? Because all these stories are precious to him. So, and technically, there are Marvel published Star Wars comics, so they
Mm,
are technically somewhere
that's true.
beyond the veil. So I'm sure the Watcher can find his way there.
All right, that's our episode for tonight. Thank you so much for joining us. We hope you will join us again next time.
For questions or suggestions for future episodes, you can fill up the Google form at bit.ly Baduy Pride Ideas. Thanks to Mamiao for suggesting this topic. It's a shame you couldn't catch the live stream, so I'm gonna send this link to you after this to make sure you have time to watch it. You can follow us on Twitter, all Toby No Shade, RG
You
Sunico.
could also check out our blog, badaypride.com, for all the previous episodes and stuff about us.
Feel free to continue the conversation in the comments below and let us know what you thought about the comic book character or the TV series, or trying to figure out how to reconcile both in your head. And then be sure to subscribe for notifications, whether on Facebook or YouTube, so you don't miss our next live stream. Once again, I'm Rocky.
And I'm Toby.
And this is Baduy
Baduy
Pride. Good night, everyone, and have a fun weekend.